in the event that you're, say, forming this first level or surface level attraction with someone, and speaking from a woman's perspective, once you begin penetrating the mind and the heart space, I think that's where the magic happens. So yes, continue investing, let's say, in loving yourself. Don't do anything to try and change your appearance, but really love yourself and own the way that you look and your energy. Because I think energy speaks much louder than how you look, right? Like, how many times have you been in situations where you're in a room and someone walks in and their energy just like bursts and you're like,
oh, yeah.
Magnetism.
Yeah.
I love that. I am attracted to that. And so I think if men can kind of hone in on this, yes, I look hot, sexy, this outfit looks great on me, but also at the same time,
self-love. We're talking about self-love.
Self-love. Really, yes, self-love. Like, what is my energy like? Yes, how safe do I make you feel? But also, like, what is the energy that I am presenting right now? Am I soft? Am I vulnerable? How can I be like strong and tender at the same time, which women love, by the way. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Trish Ferrer. I am a naturopathic doctor. And today on the Ever Forward podcast, we are talking about the combination of modern medicine and esoteric medicine. We're also talking a lot about energy. So divine feminine energy and divine masculine energy, and how we can harmonize that for people to reach health and healing liberation states.
3, 2, 1.
Dr. Trish on the show. Welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. We've been nourishing the seed and we've finally planted it, I guess. We're uprooting it together.
I'm here for it. And this is why I love social media sometimes. I don't exactly remember how I found your content. Oh, you do?
I do.
Tell me.
It was very, very vivid. You sent me a voice memo, and you've talked about your psychedelic medicine journey on your podcast, right?
Yeah.
You were on ketamine. You had tried ketamine for the first time.
No, this was
right?
No, I was at home. This was psilocybin.
Oh, psilocybin.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had just put out a piece of content about intimacy and diving into what intimacy means beyond sexuality and sexual pleasure. And it was about like intimacy is about telling the truth, and intimacy is about expressing your truth. And you were like, I love this so much. Who are you? And I was like, who are you? Thank you. Who are we together in this infinite space? Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yep. And we bonded from that day.
So God bless psychedelics and God bless social media.
Yeah.
For sometimes the two aren't my favorite thing together, which is actually kind of surprising that for me, when I'm ever having kind of that experience, I'm pretty detached from things. I might grab my phone to voice dictate like an idea or a thought or a memory or I don't know what.
Yeah.
But whatever it was, I remember hopping on Instagram. And that popped up.
You really needed that message, I guess. You really needed it, I guess, Well,
a lot of us need the messages that you talk about. And
thank you.
This is why I love, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
I love people like you that decide to create out of their truth, but also while still in pursuit of their truth. And coming from a unique area of expertise with naturopathy, just immediately when I saw those credentials and I saw that post, I was like, I know enough about you already to know that like, I want to know you more. And so for that, I say thank you. And what are we here to talk about most?
Very kind words. First of all, everyone, I did not pay him to say that. So thank you for such loving words.
Venmo comes later.
Okay. Yeah. Charge me for it. What are we here to talk about today? What would you like to know?
You, I think, do such an incredible job of bridging the gap, or at least introducing the fact that there is a gap for people that aren't quite fully aware or even just maybe a little curious about my physical self and my spiritual self, my emotions and my feelings and my somatic self.
Yeah.
What am I feeling? What have I gone through? How's my wellness, like my physical wellness compared to, or how's it in relation to my spiritual wellness, my emotional side.
Yes.
Because most people, I wasn't for a long time, not really aware of how synergistically those two are kind of working together or against you.
Yeah. I think health and healing needs to expand beyond what we think medicine is, right? We have these social constructs that we think medicine is all about the pills and just the prescriptions. But it's amazing, Chase, when, you start looking beyond that and you start experimenting or even just exploring with more esoteric concepts, or even kind of exploring the space of spirituality or tackling mental, emotional health and well-being. It kind of opens up the floodgates a little bit. And you can literally stack everything. You can stack diet and nutrition. You can stack your lifestyle in terms of, I got stress management down, I got my personal training in, I'm figuring out what diet works specifically for me. I got my labs and my diagnostics all in place. But sometimes, check. But sometimes there's still like that ping of consciousness that happens. Like you can have everything stacked, but stuff just doesn't feel good. You still don't necessarily feel well sometimes, And so that's when esoteric and spirituality come in and you're like, okay, well, how are you feeling about this? What haven't you been able to talk about lately? What have you been suppressing? What have you yet to integrate in your health and well-being, so that, like you said, everything kind of comes into this synergistic space and you've reached this place where you feel liberated in your health and well-being. And that's pretty much my work, is just reaching or helping people reach those liberation states, because I see so many people, they'll come to me for whatever condition or issue that they have, and they've seen 1 trillion doctors, Chase. It's amazing. So many people with just chronic conditions and even acute conditions will see 1 trillion doctors, but the doctors don't ask them about childhood. They don't ask them about perhaps how they've been disconnected with like their mind body, or how they may have not been able to express something to their partner, right? Relationships are a really big one in terms of like mental, emotional spaces. So, we'll tackle all of that. And once that is kind of set in stone and we figure out the root cause of mental, emotional, and spirituality issues, the physical vessel will naturally just kind of follow. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
It's pretty magical when you think about it. It's not even woo-woo anymore. It's just real.
So I want to ask you two things.
Yeah.
Before we kind of dive into, like, I'm curious how, like, what does this actually look like? What are the questions we need to be asking ourselves, or maybe even asking a professional like yourself? But let's define the term a little bit. You said esoteric.
Yeah.
I've been hearing that used interchangeably with spiritual self, the spirituality side of things. Is that kind of synonymous, or what do you mean when you say esoteric?
So I think it's based all on perception, right? People will use the term esoteric and spirituality synonymously because they do kind of belong the same family, right? So my definition of spirituality is probably going to be different than yours, than to this person and this person, right? However, for me, when I say, okay, we're going to be here to address X, Y, and Z in modern medicine and combine esoteric medicine together, I'm talking about mental health. I'm talking about emotional health. I'm talking about a connection to spirituality or divinity of some sort. And that's not related to religion. Right. That's related more to a higher source, or even a source from within. How connected are you to your own intuition, or the sacred intelligence that is your body?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. The sacred intelligence and that sovereignty that you have in your body, right? Because as we all know, if, anyone is going through a healing process, there's a specific mindset that we need to adopt, right? And the belief process in itself actually permeates the transformational healing. So do you have that connection with that sacred intelligence that is the inner voice, for example? So that's what esoteric medicine means to me.
Something you just said really intrigued me. The mindset for healing.
Yep, that's a big one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Please expand there. We need to get better at having a mindset for healing.
Yeah.
Before we can even formulate these questions for ourselves, for a healthcare provider.
Oh, yeah.
For any support system. How do we get that mindset for healing?
So I wish I had a diagram that I could pull up, but basically if you think about a triangle, right, you have the apex on the top and then you have the base that's on the bottom. Right. Conventional medicine, otherwise known as Western medicine, loves to start at the top at the apex of stuff. And that's when they'll usually prescribe something for a symptom.
What does that typically represent? What does the apex represent?
Kind of the different levels in health and healing.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Western medicine will start at the apex. However, naturopathic medicine, or let's say practitioners or healers in the alternative quote, quote, medicine space, usually like to start at the bottom. And this may be biased because I am in naturopathic medicine. But to me, that makes more sense because if you're building a house, it doesn't make sense to construct the rooms. It makes more sense to start from the ground up. Let's lay the foundation down.
Yeah.
Correct. So yeah, healing mindset starts at the bottom of the triangle. And basically that's just awareness. Right? Awareness and being able to cultivate enough awareness so that you can figure out what your obstacles to cure is. Once we get to the root cause of what the obstacles are, we get to open that door of awareness, and then it just kind of builds upon itself. So I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like how you said too, we get to.
Yeah.
We get to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is that a kind of a form of empowerment in our healing journey that we need to also kind of grab hold of?
100%. I think that empowerment and education in the healing space, or maybe I'll expand it. Empowerment and education in the healthcare system and the medicine space is something that's lacking
I agree.
a lot. Yeah. To me, it doesn't make sense to work with patients and clients who aren't empowered, informed, or at least moderately educated on what's going on with them. Because how will you expect that other person to commit and dedicate themselves to a healing journey if they have no idea what the fuck is going on? Mm-hmm. I'm sure you can relate to that. I know I can relate to that. I'm sure your listeners can relate to that, right? Like if something is going on with you, either externally, symptomatically, or something internally, and you have no idea what's up, you're not going to know what to do, nor are you going to feel empowered to be like, hey, I really need your help with this. What do I do? Who do I call, etc.
So then when we are ready to make that call to formulate the right questions, or even just string together a series of words and emotions to just kind of become more aware of how we need to execute and with whom, what is that process, or what could that process look like for somebody who is developing the healing mindset, ready to connect with somebody that can really hear them out now? What do you look for when you're looking with your clientele, and what does that kind of naturopathic, esoteric experience look like?
I will say in terms of my specific practice, because I can't speak for all the naturopathic doctors. So for my specific practice, I think when my clients come to me, they're very much ready for that kind of care. They're very much ready for that support. They usually are of that adaptability and mindset where they've already acquired all of that information, right? They've researched, they've watched the TED Talks, they've looked up stuff, and maybe just stuff hasn't been working for them. So they come to me and they're like, hey, I need this mentorship. I need your guidance in X, Y, and Z. I create the structure, and then I support them and collaborate together. Because I'm really big on collaboration. I feel like, you know, I'm not a big fan of practitioners who are like, okay, here's the plan and the protocol. See you in 6 weeks. Like that's not, that's not inspiring to me. You know, if I'm going through something really heavy, or I'm trying to figure out the answers to something, help me. Check in with me, right? Let's build that intrinsic muscle of accountability and self-responsibility. That way, when I'm starting to feel better about my journey, like, thank you for the time. I'm ready to let you go, and I will be on my way. So that's kind of where I come in, right? I'll check in. We'll do a lot of accountability, responsibility. You know, if my clients, you know, for whatever reason have a difficult time sticking to a protocol or a plan, there's obviously a lot of inspiration and empowerment that happens, because I think shame is a really big thing that happens in the healing space. So I try to stay away from that as much as possible and just kind of be a little bit more of that very colorful and vibrant space where they can come, be themselves. Because once someone is themselves in any space, stuff's just more open, right? It's more vibrant and
especially
colorful.
in the healing process, right?
Yes.
You can tap into learn how to tap into, this is me, this is my comfortable state, my safe state. Like, then I think you're really physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all the things really ready to heal.
Yeah. And like the downloads just come, you realize stuff about yourself that's going on, and then you'll share it, and then the other person will have something to share. It's just very collaborative in that way. And I think when people feel safe enough to do that, they're ready to commit. They're ready for that dedication to their healing process with that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you see happening when people come to you, when people are on their healing journey, no matter where they are, when they kind of encounter, like, I'm in pursuit of healing maybe a physical thing, an injury, some inflammation, gut health stuff, whatever it might be, and you kind of keep coming up against a feeling, the emotional side of things. It doesn't really quite make sense of, why am I in pursuit of emotional healing for a physical ailment? How can you kind of help?
Ooh, that's a great question.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty great. I love that question. I love that question, because now we can really talk about that intersection between modern medicine and esoteric medicine. I love that question. Thank you for asking that. I think a prime and really powerful example is thyroid health.
Yes.
Thyroid health.
Yeah.
And I'll specifically speak to women, because I see women primarily in my practice. So they're kind of like my study group, I guess. But in the event that women come to me for any kind of thyroid issue, right, on a physical level and in like the physiological and biochemical space, we'll look at labs, we'll look at diagnostics, we'll look at thyroid medication, we'll figure out symptoms
someone might be experiencing with a thyroid problem, just to kind of paint a picture.
Yeah, it depends if you're having hypo or hyperthyroidism. So hypo, you usually have some weight issues, there's some fatigue, you have stuff going on with your menses and your cycles. You can experience like bloating, some GI things, there's some temperature changes that can happen as well. Some hair growth in specific areas, or areas that you may not want hair to grow hair. Correct. Yeah. And so everything that goes on with the thyroid is all hormones, right? Okay. So on a physiological and biochemical perspective, that's all of the work that we're doing. Let's figure out where you are with your thyroid hormones and then harmonize that. But it is amazing, because I've seen so many women, Chase, so many women. We will balance out thyroid hormones here, right? Like everything looks great on paper. But then for whatever reason, the thyroid is just still unhappy. And so that's where esoteric medicine comes in. And since the thyroid is literally placed right here in the middle of the throat chakra, which is related to one's voice, and then the voice is related to expression, I come in and I say, okay, what are you holding on to? What haven't you been able to express? Or in what ways have you not been able to express authentically? And then that's where stuff will come in. Like, I have a desire to do this, but I've been too scared. Or I really need to talk to my partner about this, but my voice feels really suppressed. Or, you know, there's been an ancestral history of suppression of female voices. And so I don't feel comfortable saying how I feel about something. So, yeah.
That reminds me of, still my old kind of coach trainer brain always goes to physical analogies. But what you said about expressing, or I'm not expressing authentically, immediately gave me this analogy of how I've been there. So many people, you commit to, I'm going to start walking, I'm going to start working out, I'm going to start yoga, whatever.
Right.
You commit to a physical thing. Right. But you're just kind of doing it.
Yes.
You know, you're technically doing a thing that is in pursuit of your goals. That's air quote healthy here. Right. But when you're just going through the motions versus actually doing it, like you're saying, expressing authentically, actually not only speaking, but speaking your truth or speaking in pursuit of that. I mean, imagine the difference, somebody going to the gym and like, I'm here for 30 minutes versus someone, I'm here for 30 minutes and this is my program or this is my rep scheme and this is I'm progressively overloading after last month. Like that's kind of the physical and esoteric side of things that we're talking about here.
Yes, 100%. And we literally talked about this on the phone the other day. Then I always give the example to my female clients, because a lot of women, when they think about their fitness goals, all of us want to get like that big booty, right? That dump truck.
My toning muscles.
Exactly. Exactly. And so it's literally the same thing. It's like, you're not going to get that shelf, that nice dump truck, that big booty if you're literally just sitting on your ass all day, right? You have to take your ass to the gym, or at least do like lower body or glute focus or something one day a week, and then strengthen that mind body connection and actually feel the work that's happening in the glutes, right? Because it's amazing when you start connecting mind body to like in relation to fitness. And I'm sure you know this, right? Like once you start connecting that mind body to that muscle group, you can actually visually see pretty massive results just from doing that.
You feel it.
Yeah.
You literally feel that connection so much more. It's just training a different neural pathway, training a different connection.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's where mind body, really comes in, and like strengthening the mental process to encourage some kind of physiological response.
So that's kind of like in pursuit of healing. And we were talking about the other day of kind of how I had an experience on the other side of that.
Yes, please share.
Being in I just joke with, I feel like every time I talk to you, I'm like on mushrooms, which is a fair amount.
Well, that just goes to show that we're spiritually and energetically connected. Hey, I love that. I think it's great.
You're putting out stuff.
Yes.
Pretty much 90% of the time when I'm
just planning. I'm just like sending you like the electrical signals, the magic.
I receive it. But I was telling you on the kind of like on the other side of this, we're getting our mind right. We're getting the mindset of healing. We're asking questions. And then on the other side of it, when you're on your way, like I had this incredible experience of, I was really, really deepening for the first time in a long time, beyond a connection to my body, appreciation for my body.
Totally.
Gratitude. I was using about 2 grams. I was on about 2 grams of psilocybin, and I was doing yoga in my home. And I was just moving and just then really looking at my arms, my legs, my fingers, my toes, my feet, my everything. And I began to just get overwhelmed with this sense of gratitude and appreciation for having all of this. My audience knows, I went through a pretty radical injury long time ago in the military that like I could have very much walked away or not been able to walk away really. And so I just became so grateful for like, I have my legs still, I have all this stuff. And when that happened, it was like measurable. Like I need like a Ghostbuster scanner or something, but like just, I felt and just like, I felt like the whole house felt this release, this just energy just leaving my entire hips and midsection, where my injuries were. And
that makes my heart happy.
It makes my everything happy. Yeah. And so that felt so amazing. But then I immediately was able to integrate it. The next day or the day after, I had one of my strongest days in the gym ever. Yeah. Like weight that I was doing, reps that I were doing without, traditional, like, without needing a belt, which I don't always recommend, but just things moved so easily and so quickly in ways that they haven't for a long, long time. Yeah. And the only thing that changed, because so much of the rest of my life is very consistent, like I had that emotional, esoteric release when I got connected, beyond connection, appreciation to my body, my physical self.
See, and I feel like these stories are so important to share because that in itself, like that is all the stuff that you can't quantify with numbers, right?
You can't quantify when you're experiencing sometimes. It happens.
Correct.
Like, what the hell was that?
Correct.
Yeah, I was like, did I leak?
What happened? Yeah, totally. And so, I think it's important to share more stuff like this because it's just not been a normalized part in the modern medicine world or the conventional Western world to acknowledge stories and experiences like that, right? The immediate reaction to stuff like that is okay, it's just being a little woo-woo.
Yeah.
Or like you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, or
like
it's the mushrooms.
right.
Yeah.
Like you were just on mushrooms, bro. That's not real, you know? And so how can we get away from these spaces where we're completely dismissing this lived experience and embracing it instead as part of one's healing journey that is actually sustainable and transformational at the same time? Because we can literally combine Western medicine, spirituality, or esoteric medicine together. And if we do that in a normalized setting, that would be really fucking magical and really powerful.
Does it make you kind of sad that, like, sad and grateful and excited, but mostly sad? We're talking about reconnecting all these things to be more fulfilled, more healed, more well human beings, when most likely aren't these things all together to begin with? How far we've come from, we're now chasing after what we already had forever ago, you know?
It's interesting that you say that, Chase, because I feel like a big part of this work and even the work that you are doing, bringing all of these conversations to the public and having access to that, but it's really just coming back to our roots. And I think that that's really important because in 2022, we've gotten so removed from our roots and everything that's happened to us ancestrally and evolutionarily. And so once we kind of come back to that and honor that with even more basic lifestyle principles of like diet, nutrition, eating things that are a little bit more wholesome, community, right? Purpose, relationships, like really feeling that frequency of love for others, but love for the self. I think there's really cool magic there. But yes, of course, I definitely feel sad that stuff has a tendency to become very separate. And, you know, there are things within our systems that have become very colonized. And there's stuff in our system that's become very culturally appropriated because of that. And so I honestly believe that if more people talk about stuff like these, the stories, or even just simply having the conversation of merging certain things together and bringing everything back to its original space, that we will all reach that liberation that we're all looking for.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, I think like a common human experience is to just feel free. I don't want to be stressed about this, or I don't want to be like worried about this. Like, sure, stress, worry, anxiety, depression, all of that can always be part of the process. However, I would love to see people feel more empowered and believe that there are resources, that there are tools, like there's avenues for people to go for that. And right now there really isn't. So I would love to see that kind of like grow and widen a little.
Well, you're definitely one of my resources for this.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, we have great conversations.
We do. This is why I said at the beginning, you know, I love where we are in the world, to where through my phone I can meet people like you out of thin air.
Yeah.
But also what I really, really love, and what I hope the listener, you, is kind of picking up on, is that these things happen when your healing mindset shifts.
Yes.
These things happen when you compound these small little habits, these rituals, your diet, nutrition, your boundaries, your everything, your emotional, esoteric self, because you completely like reroute your entire life.
Yep.
Or you put yourself more in alignment with the life that you want.
Yep.
And so then you're asking different questions. You're becoming more aware to different things. Hell, when that happens on the algorithm, people like Dr. Trish pop up, you know, like, and so who knows if
follow me at Dr. Trish on Instagram.
Shameless plug. It's down in the show notes. We got you. But that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that healing, and maybe this is another like podcast episode, but healing has become very trendy in terms of like, there's always something to sell when it comes to healing, right? But when we come back to maybe like the bigger concept and the philosophy of healing, it's really just about being in the present moment. Who am I now? What can I do now? What can I do to like give myself love and other people love? What do I have access to? And like, what can I do to remain here so I can have a little bit more tomorrow, and then the following day and the following day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, because it's another reminder of something that I believe, but also the more and more people that I come in contact with and that I meet and then, you know, even come on the show, there are so many of the same things or same concepts that are just explained differently by these people that I look up to.
I love that
I learn from. And so it's, again, another reminder on your healing journey that just success leaves clues, and we're all after the same thing, because if people that you're learning from, healing with are saying very similar, if not the same things, like, doesn't that tell you something?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. We're all speaking a universal language, just different words. It's
all love. It's all love. But
I love that.
I want to shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And being that we are now, as this is live, we're in Men's Health Awareness Month. And I love men. I love my dudes. Yeah. I've had some incredible relationships, male relationships in my life that have forged me.
So powerful.
In many ways, men with men, men with women, we bring something unique to the table, something different. Not good, not bad, not better, not worse, just different. And last year I started this thing where I was kind of sharing, I reached out to a lot of these different guys in my life, other naturopaths, influencers, authors, community leaders, friends, personal. And I was just like, give me your number one tip, maybe a non-typical tip for men's health. Like, what has been one thing that has helped you financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, in your relationships, whatever. And I was just amazed at all the different responses that I got.
What did they say to you?
I mean, a lot of things were just like, don't worry about it. I mean, a lot of the obvious things, success compounds, you need a community. I got some great tips, shout out, another naturopath, Dr. G, was giving us a mini masterclass, I think it was on vitamin D. Little things that you don't think really are, you're soaking in, you're absorbing, whether that's intentionally or just passively, but especially unique to the male energy, the male body, the male mind, the male progress, everything. Just amazing collaboration. So I'm curious, and I want to ask you the same thing from a female perspective, from a naturopath perspective, from this healing mindset perspective. What would you recommend, or what would you love to see men take home, mull over, maybe even apply for their healing journey this month?
I love this topic. I love talking about men because I love men. And I think that a lot of people are under this condition or belief that women have been the only gender who have been oppressed by society. And while that is true, like if we're looking at it in comparison, there are also, predominantly, there are also a lot of men who have been fucked up by the system, right? And so that has encouraged men to kind of lean towards the more toxic masculinity side that's kind of based on like an ego or arrogance versus a more balanced masculine, which is operating from that place of love and that place of like union in the heart centers. And so while I am a feminist and I love women, I love being able to like, amplify women's voices and everything that they're doing. Yes, that's right. I got the queens and the goddesses on my side. I also love having these conversations with men because I feel like there just aren't enough places for men to go. There aren't enough places for men to go. And then on top of that, in the event that there are places for men to go, the larger community of men will either shame the men who are doing those things or, or whatever it is, right? They'll look down on them for whatever reason.
You're doing what? You're going against the norm. This makes me feel uncomfortable, therefore you must be wrong.
Correct.
Couldn't do anything with me.
Yes. It's almost as if, ancestrally throughout like the industrialization of our system, there's been this like handbook for men on how they should be. And I don't think that's healthy.
I think for most men it's been an unspoken handbook because most guys don't speak. You don't communicate things. You don't talk like we're talking.
Yes.
Many of the times.
Yes. So to answer your question, Chase, I think that's something that I would love to see for men, or even for the month of June, let's say, for all the men listening. I would love for every man to be able to connect to their vulnerabilities and sensitivities. And maybe dissolve this belief that leaning in to all of the things that make you vulnerable and sensitive make you weak. When in fact, your vulnerabilities and your sensitivities are a strength. They're that shield. Those are the things that propel you to accessing that very infinite potential of love that you have. That gives you the access to creating spaces for other men to enter, the different archetypes of like being a warrior or being a dad, or even just being able to like express to their partner about X, Y, and Z things, right? Like that gives men that access to be like, hey, this is really bothering me. I love you, but I need to talk to you about this. Right? The more that we can help men lean into that courage and that bravery instead of, let's say, something a little bit more intense like abuse or violence or anything that's rageful on that spectrum, I think that would be really healthy for men as a whole.
Yeah, I love how you said courageous.
Yeah.
Like it takes courage to act on these things. It takes courage to have some of these just conversations with yourself before you even get to the point of reaching out, asking for professional help, talking to a friend, talking to anyone. Yeah. And it makes me really I think back to, I said at the beginning, I think I've had some really, really formidable male relationships in my life.
You're so lucky, Chase.
I am.
You're very
incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
But they weren't so much. The majority of the significant male relationships in my life, unfortunately, they've all passed away. My father and two of my probably closest male relationships in the military, both of those guys unfortunately took their own lives because of a lot of what we're talking about, of just having so much in their head and on their heart. Yes. And not having the right outlets to get this out. And so unfortunately, to your point, violence was the outcome. Yeah.
And it really is unfortunate, and this stems even beyond that. And, how can we encourage men to get out of the thinking logical space so much and back into the body, right? When you're thinking about like conventional male characteristics, he's always someone who's like up here, right? While the woman is a little bit more in her body, she's the person who's a little bit more embodied. But why can't men also be that way? It doesn't just have to be women. I've also had a lot of privilege of having incredible male relationships in my formative years as well, minus my very toxic ex-partnership. But we're not going to talk about that on the podcast.
I'm sure you got a couple lessons from that. Yeah.
I did. But, I have found that men who kind of learn and lean into more embodiment and less up here, and who can even like learn how to balance between being really analytical and logistical, but also being a little bit more flowing and creative, that's really divine masculine energy right there.
Recognize when and where both are needed. And
Correct. And I mean, this is not to say that, men need to be feminized or anything like that. But if more men could embody, quote, more feminine characteristics or qualities, I think that's an avenue for men to really like rise the rank and smash the patriarchy, as we like to say.
Okay. Please go there for us. Okay. I want to feel free to use our conversations, our relationship thus far as an example, if necessary. Because I've gotten feedback from you as to like, wow, it's so good to hear a guy say certain stuff like that. Yes. Talking about all things. And it's funny to me, it's kind of just like, oh, that's just, it's how I talk. It's what I feel, like I'm very transparent. But then to get that feedback about how this isn't normal, actually, it was like, well, a reminder of like, all right, well then I need to keep doing this because I want to kind of, attract guys to do this kind of work as well. Yes. But also it's kind of, it was like, it made me feel more masculine, made me feel more manly to get that from someone of the opposite sex. It's just like, oh, cool. Like that's a good thing. Like I really enjoy and appreciate my ability to create and deepen relationships with males, with females. And like to get that from you was just like, a positive feedback thing.
Yeah. You're like, I feel validated.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay,
Yeah.
good. Like this kind of stuff is good for us to not only coexist, but to co-heal.
Yeah. I mean, when we're talking about humans from an energetic perspective, right? Like the yin and yang. Everybody knows about the yin and yang.
The hot and the cold, the up and the down.
Correct, right? And so why aren't we bringing those concepts and philosophies and ideologies into the way that we live, breathe, think, act, et cetera, so on and so forth? So basically from an energetic perspective, everyone has masculine and feminine energies. If you identify as a man, then there are, more there are qualities that you will kind of tend to lean on. And then if you identify as a female, then there are characteristics that you would lean on. And so when we talk about like harmonizing all of these energies, we're talking about like how to balance it both, right? And like you said earlier, how to access, let's say, more masculine energy for like business or production versus the female energy, which is more about like the creation, right? And this makes sense if you're thinking about it, putting it in a realistic perspective, like the podcast, for example. When you're acquiring all of your guests and figuring out what to talk about, that is your feminine energy working for you. But then when we're here together talking, I'm in my masculine energy and so are you. Because now we're producing something. We're turning that creative aspect into an action.
Having to show up as a role, perform,
Correct.
Execute, stand in your ability.
100%. And so, I guess when we were talking about like your kingship, whenever that was like months ago, the reason why I said that is because one, I really love the relationship and how expressive you are with your partner. And
likewise, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And you are really good at making women feel safe. And I think that is a really big thing in the male dominant world and in a patriarchal world.
Yeah.
Because most women do not feel safe in male presence. I mean,
say that again.
You want me to say that again?
Yeah, I want to let it sink in for the listener.
So most women do not feel safe in a man's presence. And this is not anything new. If you're looking at, the oppression of women have continuously been oppressed the last 5,000 years or so. It's been documented. It's out there in the open. Women know about this, but I'm not sure that men know about that. And so if you have the ability as a man to make a woman or women or a community of women, females, etc., feel safe in your presence, that is truly a gift. And that is how I know, as someone who does energy work, when I'm working with a man or even being around other men, that is how I know that you have really balanced masculine energy.
Okay.
Right? Because women feel safe around you. I feel safe around you. I feel very open around you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's something that I love. Something that I've also noticed about you, Chase, is that you have a lot of female friendships. And so that's another,
mostly.
And that's another indicator to me that not only are you comfortable around women, but it's not so much like a dominating or conquering kind of sense. It's more about like collaborating or let me get to know you a little bit. And I'm going to lean on X, Y, and Z qualities of mine that are a little bit more feminine, quote, quote. Therefore, attracting all of these female friendships towards you that are very safe, that are very comfortable. And that's how I feel like we are, which is why like our conversations are always so great and we have like really good flow. And I feel like a divine masculine man and like a healthy masculine man, let's say in this society, is a man who can open the space for other men as well. He has good, healthy relationships with other men who are also akin to him, right? They're not about the conquering. They're not about the dominance. They're more about being leaders in their space. But also while being a leader, operating from that place of love. Let me help you. How can I support you?
Absolutely,
what do you need from me? When I experience men operating from that heart space, I know that they are a king. And maybe they might not know, but I know.
I think you're kind of helping me.
You're like, this is me. This is me.
Yeah. Well, like, yes, like toot.
It's okay. It's okay to say it.
But as you were describing all of that, it's I was thinking of the male relationships I have in my life now. Significant male relationships.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that means we have very regular, frequent, meaningful conversation, or we have just meaningful conversation, meaningful interactions every 6 months.
Yeah.
Like there are people in my life that I still hold to that high standard, and they meet because of literally everything you were just saying.
Yeah.
And I was just having like,
You're like ding, ding,
that makes
ding,
sense.
ding. Yeah.
It's like helping me better understand. And I hope, the listener, maybe a guy or another girl out there kind of, with a male in their life, like this stuff isn't really important. Like you just saying all of that and sharing with me why we're friends or how we kind of became friends.
Yeah.
Like from your perspective of safety and what you witness, like that really is incredible feedback for me.
Yeah. I mean, Chase, this would be like a good maybe study or experiment for you is to ask your female friends, your group of female friends, like, what is it that you love about me? Or like, why
are we friends?
Well, yeah. Like, why are we friends? How do I make you feel in our presence or our coffee dates or lunch dates or whatever it is?
What do you think about as direct as what you said earlier?
Yeah.
Do I make you feel safe?
Do I make you feel safe? And see what they say.
That is a powerful question for any guy to ask. A female in their life.
100%.
Wow.
100%. I will say though, Chase, there's also a little bit of a caveat. Because of a lot of the male dominance in our society, women have kind of had to take on, let's say, more masculine qualities and traits. And so women have kind of, they'll kind of like springboard into like different parts of their femininity. They'll kind of either enter this place where it's like very hyper independent, as in, I don't need a man. I don't need this. I don't need that. Right. I do this, etc. I don't need you. Or they'll kind of enter this space where, they're really afraid of doing something, or let's say they will maybe shame other women in the process. And so I think when women can also lean into their divine feminine energy and their goddess energy and kind of like accessing their own queenship, that's their ability to recognize and even, let's say, for a looser term, shape their king.
Okay.
Right? Like you enter partnerships and let's say you're entering a partnership, and in the event that you both happen to synergistically be doing this great work, which is a great thing, right? If you're in a partnership and you can like work on stuff with your partner, like, yes, we stand for that. We love that. The two of you will just naturally kind of like enter those pearly gates of like the kingdom and the queendom, and you have no idea that it happens, right? And then people,
we're here.
Yes. And then, people will give you that feedback like, oh my God, you guys are such a power couple. And you had no idea. And that's literally the two of you entering those pearly gates of the king and the queendom.
Wow.
Yeah.
That feedback is so powerful.
Yeah. So now you can talk to me about it and be like, do you think that we're in this like king and queendom together? Or
did you know we're in a whole new gated community now?
Just our community. Trisha Miles are next door. And
we're all in our own little like kingdoms all around.
Yeah. So I will say, in terms of being around safe men, I think partnerships are a really big one. If you happen to be in a very safe and loving partnership and it's safe enough that you can like express and open up to certain stuff and explore certain things together, I think that really helps with that like harmonization of energy, right? Because partnerships are all about like medicine that you can offer. And so unless you're ready and willing to take in the medicine,
like that,
you can either elevate into that divinity or not.
Depreciate.
Yeah, exactly.
Even,
yeah. So evolve or devolve, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, I want to go one other place with you.
Okay. I love the places we go.
The mindset healing. Me too. Talking about the male energy, this kind of perspective, this male health tip. And I would love to kind of continue that expression or that feedback of the male, female, king, queen, divine energy. And when it goes to our sex health.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. My favorite topic.
She's lit.
Yes, I am.
So kind of on the same path, I was also talking to you about how I like this whole next level appreciation for my body recently kind of underwent. I can't use my words good. See, I told you.
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't talk good
it's
sometimes.
Tongue twisters.
I underwent that same kind of appreciation or just new awareness about, is this how I used to get girls? I used to think that, and I'm sure a lot of guys think, or a lot of people out there think, when you have a sexual partner, when you hook up with somebody, when you date somebody, it's because I got them. Because of how I looked or how I smelled or my body or my eyes or usually the physical self, like I tricked you somehow into coming home with me or having a relationship with me. And that same kind of realization, I was like, no, Chase, like it was because of everything you were just saying. It was just like, no, the women that I have partnered with, that I've been with, they let me. I guess looking back now, it's because like I was creating this safe container for them. But my whole world kind of shifted of partnerships, of everything in the sexual realm of, no, like you really, like it just so happens that you were there and you were creating that container, but it really didn't, like what you were wearing, how you looked were probably minimal compared to the female experience of how they were feeling and their choice to let me come closer.
Yeah. I think it's a yes and no situation. I mean, I can't speak for you because I'm not in your body. I haven't had your experience, but I do firmly believe that sometimes you kind of have to enter these certain phases in your life in terms of sexual health or even sexual pleasure, and like reaching liberation through sexuality and having sex or casual sex or monogamous sex or whatever sexual preference that you have in order to continue creating that container. Because your story I find is really fascinating and lovely. And I don't know if your listeners know this, but you're one night with May and then you ended up marrying her, which I think is fantastic. But you were saying that before that, you were kind of in this spectrum of, you know, going out there, experimenting, having all of these.
Lots of one nights.
Lots of one nights. Okay, I didn't know if you could say it. I was like, well, do they know?
This is an EF radio exclusive here. No,
okay.
We've never talked about Chase's sex life in the past, but here we are.
We are opening it up.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay, we're opening it up. So yeah, you know, you kind of entered that phase, which by the way, women also enter that phase. But I think
humans do.
Yeah, women, you know, men just love, you know, we will all kind of blame men for just being those people. But, you know, you kind of entered that phase, and maybe in a way, you needed that in order for you to invite and create that container for your wife.
Interesting.
Right?
I don't disagree.
Because I mean, like, could we, you know, enter the possibility that, let's say, if that never happened, would you have even met May?
Ooh. I mean, no, I would have been in a completely different mindset. I would have been thinking or not thinking certain things. Yeah. I would be out or not out doing certain things. Yeah. It changes everything.
Yeah. And then when you happen to meet that person, right, there's that intrinsic feeling of things going right, no matter what the environment or situation is. And then that will open up the possibilities to anything that you would like to experience together.
Can you give the guys maybe a couple pointers? Maybe a guy listening right now is hearing this. Wait, so like it's really not about how I look or how I smell or what I'm wearing, and like, and it is more about me making this partner feel safe. How can a guy do that? Like, what's the mindset beyond what we've been talking about? Yeah. What's like a little nugget for him to kind of mull over?
I will say, from a primal and biological perspective, we are very much attracted to someone's phenotype, right? If you look good, if you're presenting yourself in a certain way, being hot, beautiful, sexy, charming, etc.
Please continue.
But then, exactly. And then in the event that you're, say, forming this first level or surface level attraction with someone, and speaking from a woman's perspective, once you begin penetrating the mind and the heart space, I think that's where the magic happens. So yes, you know, continue investing, let's say, in loving yourself. You know, don't do anything to try and change your appearance, but really love yourself and own the way that you look and your energy. Because I think energy speaks much louder than how you look. right? Like how many times have you been in situations where you're in a room and someone walks in and their energy just like bursts and you're like,
Oh yeah.
magnetism.
Yeah.
I love that. I am attracted to that. And so I think if men can kind of hone in on this, yes, I look hot, sexy, this outfit looks great on me, but also at the same time,
Self-love. We're talking about self-love.
Self-love.
Really,
Yes, self-love. Like, what is my energy like? Yes, how safe do I make you feel? But also like, what is the energy that I am presenting right now? You know, am I soft? Am I vulnerable? How can I be like strong and tender at the same time? Which women love, by the way.
Okay, so
The strong and tender.
How do we get our strong and tender self on?
Strong and tender. Okay.
What does that look like? What does that feel like? Like if a guy wants to choose,
God,
I want to tap into my strong and tender energy.
I'm thinking about my
tonight.
partner right now. So I'm like, what example can I give?
Should we just put up a still here of Miles?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's find a picture of him and put him right here. But okay, let's maybe can we talk about pleasure, sexual pleasure, for example? Okay. So unless a woman, and I might be speaking generally here, so I apologize if I'm speaking generally and offend anyone. However, at least in the information that I've gathered in my work, most women, unless they have had some kind of sexual trauma, always prefer and love men who are a little bit dominant in the bedroom and may have a preference for the men that they are with to be a little bit more aggressive. Again, this is not all women speaking. This is just from information that I've gathered. However, most men have a difficult time accessing that and going there for fear of hurting their partner, crossing a boundary, let's say. So in the event that you're trying to hone in on being strong and tender, have a conversation about it. Like let's make sexuality, sexual pleasure, desire, needs, wants, fantasy, play, all of that, a common part of your experience as a couple. I think that would be a great place to be strong and tender, because once you kind of normalize that part in your experience and then you happen to bring that level of intimacy into the bedroom, that's how you access strong and tender. You know exactly what your partner wants, needs, desires, and then you can authentically, quote, quote, perform.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
You brought up another key word. If we can kind of keep going down this rabbit hole a little bit with just kind of understanding more and more that we can understand our physical self, the esoteric self, and kind of just how we're using our bodies, positioning of ourselves, touch, what we're saying, how we're saying it, all of these things. I want to share something that happened maybe like 2 months ago.
Yay.
And just, again, having these conversations helps me think of things in such a different way. So this is why I'm so grateful to be here with you.
Yeah, me too.
This is crazy.
I'm going to give myself a pat on the back because I pull it out of you.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
You do.
It's good stuff.
Like you give such unique perspective and feedback. My wife and I were bunch of friends were all out at a big birthday party dinner. And one of the girls was there, and kind of just who I am. Like I kind of touchy-feely guys. Like I put, a hand on your shoulder, or like our friend, she was saying something, and I was just like, I touched her leg. I was like, oh, like, ha, like amazing, like cool. Some kind of like verbal and physical communication. Like, hey, I hear you, I'm responding, kind of thing. And then like later on that evening, we were all kind of talking about, she went through an ayahuasca experience recently. And she was like,
powerful.
Excuse me. It like really helped to like unload all this. Like I was in a very, very abusive, sexually abusive, physically abusive past relationship.
Yep.
And it like helped me just kind of like purge a lot of that stuff and like revisit things that I'm still not over. And it just made me think of, I just like touched her leg the other night. And it made me think of like, was that a trigger for her? Here's a man who didn't ask for it. Like, we're friends, we're friendly. So like was that worse because she did know me? She does trust me. Hopefully she trusts me. And I was just like, yes, but that made me connect the dots more of how I'm showing up with people, but particularly women.
Yeah.
And also like, as we're going through our healing journey, like how for a lot of people, that sexual component can either be a big interest or a big trauma. And it completely shifted how I ever want to look at, talk to, touch like anybody else. I'm like, I had no idea. I had no idea that me just being me could be such a major trigger for somebody in that kind of realm.
But don't you find that very interesting, but also sad that even between friends that are trusted, you doing that with her past made you feel like you did something wrong instead of the fact that it could have just been a form of intimacy, right?
Yeah.
So I
knowing our friendship and stuff, like, I would like to think that, and I'll probably like straight up ask her.
Yeah, you should.
She'll be like, Chase, shut up.
Yeah.
But it just got me thinking.
Yeah. I think that, and I guess we can even talk about intimacy now, and what even started our relationship is moving beyond what we think intimacy because you literally just said, oh, this like sexual connection of me putting my hand on her leg. But between friends, is that really sexual? Is me giving my male friend, is me giving you a hug in front of my partner sexual? So
I'm not in my head in agreement. So not saying yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm letting that sit in. Yeah. Letting it sit in. So I do find it interesting that, these acts of intimacy can be viewed as something sexual. So then I feel like that stems into a conversation of what we believe sexual acts are or sexuality is versus intimacy between people. I mean, trust me, I get it. I've been in certain situations where I'm like, is this or is this? And, even with my partner being a little bit more of a public figure, like he's had many experiences of different people. And, I've had my own like traumas and triggers of being like, you did what? You did this with this person, with this woman, blah, 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 all of this stuff, but it is part of his career. And so I accept that. But so that is interesting, the societal standards and belief systems of what we think is something sexual versus what we think is something that's just intimate between two people that know each other. I mean, if you put your hand on, say, this like random person, I'd be like, Chase, you probably shouldn't have done that. Yeah. But you're in a friend group. Everything sounds obviously like it's very safe. And obviously your wife is in on it, quote, she's in on it. And so I think it's okay. It's okay.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's okay. But you should definitely ask your friend that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, she was just unloading so much, and it made me really think about these little nuances, in what we say, how we say it, how we touch, all that, of just you never really know. And it kind of feeds back in for me too of, I guess in my younger years, my, single years of maybe even using that to my advantage sometimes of like, I can get away with this. I can get away with getting close. I can get away with touching. I can get away with whatever. But again, it also made me think about, well, no, Chase, you never got away with anything. They always just let you. Like it was it was them giving you permission. I never was taking anything. But a lot of guys, I think the other side of that. And that just, it like brought me full circle to this revelation I was having.
I think it's both. I definitely think there's one side of men who feel like, during those years of experimenting sexually with different partners and going out, etc., there's definitely a big thing with consent. That's a really big one. However, there is still that other side of those sexual experiences that women may have felt coerced. And I'm not saying this is yours. I'm just speaking generally, but, there have been situations where women maybe have felt coerced to go forth with that situation, or they may have been manipulated somehow. But women do that too, not just men.
Like two instances popped in my head about like,
yes. Also, let's stop demonizing men so much as being like those types of perpetrators, and women also do it, is what I'm trying to say. And so I think in those formidable years of like exploring and stuff like that, it's okay as long as there's like good intention behind it and there isn't an intention to conquer, dominate, or manipulate. I think that's a great thing, because I think most people who entered those exploration stages, it's very much about being self-possessed. What can I get out of this situation? How can I pleasure myself? Because when we're talking about like sexual liberation through pleasure, let's say, you're doing it together. There's this nice energy flow and reciprocation and mutuality of giving each other pleasure, versus sometimes in those more exploratory states, you're basically using the other person for masturbation. Yeah. You're like, that's stuck. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've all been there.
One thing, a little like, I don't know, kind of summary of that for me was just like, I'm always looking for ways in the topics that I cover and the guests that I have on here and just, my wellness journey and how I share it here of like, how does this really look in the real world? And if we can't think of all the things and we can't apply all the things, there's a lot of power in questions and perspective, which is what we've been talking about so much. So the whole concept of moving ever forward, living a life ever forward is turning adversities into your advantages. Just thinking differently, choosing has to be a choice to just flip. This sucks to what is the gift? I can't believe this happened to, I'm so grateful this happened. Where I'm going with this is imagine guys, girls, whatever, the next day or whenever after you break up, it's like, I totally scored. I totally hooked up. I totally banged him. Like, again, like me a conquered. What if like the phrase was, the thought was, that person let me experience that with them. Yes. That person let me in. Literally, that person shared an intimate moment with me. Yes. Like, again, just made it about the other person instead of me. Look what I did. Look what I got.
I love that. I love that so much because I feel like with that belief system and turning that around like that, you're literally acknowledging the experience, and then hopefully one can acknowledge that experience and it actually being true and you're not hiding something. That's where, I sometimes may have difficulty with that stuff is, you're saying one thing, but you're not necessarily aligned with what you're saying, right? You're just kind of like philosophizing over stuff, but how are you actually applying it? And is that the truth of what you're actually saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Man, kind of speaking of, I want to be mindful of our time here, and I would definitely got to get you back for a part 2 because this stuff was so good.
So much. I'm just going to be the co-host of the Ever Forward podcast.
The people would love that. I'll do. Maybe we'll do like a co-host.
We'll collaborate.
Don't like talk show hosts do that? Like they'll have they'll have like segments, like and stuff mini like co-host kind of thing. All right. Yeah.
Well, let's plant the seed, Chase.
Yeah, I'm getting in the practice of not saying no to things, or at least nowhere as quickly. So like,
let's invite the possibility.
There we go. There's perspective.
There you go.
But hopefully this has all been incredible information. I know it has been for me, for the listener, to take home one thing to apply to their life, to move forward in their life, to go ever forward. How does that land on you here today? What does that mean to you?
I love this question. This is my favorite question you ask your guests, by the way. This might sound counterintuitive, but I think being ever forward is the present moment. And how allowing and surrendering yourself to the present moment actually propels you to be ever forward, to be transformative, to be sustainable, to be revolutionary, and to grow and literally move forward. Who am I today? What can I do? What gifts can I bring? And how can I be of service? So I think when I think of ever forward, I think of those things, being in the present moment and who I am and how can I show up. Again,
another commonality in so many other incredible people that I've sat here with and had on the show over the years is really, it's just like, okay, we can get there, but what about right here, right now first?
Yes.
Yes. Trish, this is amazing. I love you. You're incredible.
I love you too. It's so great.
What you do, how you do it is just amazing. We need more people doing what they want to do, how they want to do it.
I'm going to give myself a pat for that.
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you.
Well, cool. Well, where can everybody connect with you? We're going to, of course, have all the information down in the show notes, but where are you going online the most to hang out?
Instagram would be my go-to. So everybody can come stalk me at Dr. Ferrer, where you will find all the content nuggets and goodies and see what I'm up to. I'm really active on my stories. So day-to-day things are on there.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.